For the 8th consecutive session, the Nigerian bourse extended its losing streak as the benchmark index closed 1.93% weaker, the biggest single-day decline since 19th February, to close at 99,808.34. The market's weak performance was driven by sell-offs in telco heavyweight MTNN Nigeria, which lost 1.32%, alongside Tier 1 banking tickers. We've got GTCO, FBN, and we also have Access Bank there. Now, as a result, the year-to-date return fell to 33.48%, while the market capitalization lost 1.11 trillion naira. Well, we have joining us right now Vincent Oshoma, the head capital market at Interstate Securities. Thank you, Vincent, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
All right. The first thing that came to my mind when I saw this is the fact that these things are not just numbers. These are, people's investments we're actually looking at right now. What's going on?
Is the market reacting to some of the recent events in the market, in the economy, in the financial system? You know that the last meeting, CBN increased rates. And we have seen uptick in rates in the fixed income space. So is people exiting the equity market to go into the fixed income space? That's why you are seeing this rate. And also the recapitalization has also thrown some uncertainty in terms of how they are going to see it pay out, because the banks have released some of their plans. But we don't know the timing is also something that people are looking at. And also when you also look at the latest inflation figures that show that inflation is currently at 3%. So, and with the hawkish stance of the CBN, I think all these events is kind of what is impacting our market.
Well, the thing is, I must say that analysts actually anticipated a slowdown driven by 3 factors. That's a rising fixed income yields, which you talked about due to CBN rate hikes. And then we also have this particular one, decline in dividend payouts compared to Q1, and then the potential dilution of banking stocks due to the recently announced recapitalization exercise. Now, are all of these things playing out now? You've mentioned about 1 or 2 of them. Now, let's take the dividend payout. Are all of these playing out now?
Yes, the dividend payout has an impact, especially when you look at the dividend payout of some of the banks. When you have GT paying final dividend of 2.70 kobo, I think that was quite shocking for most investors compared to Zenith Bank paying 3.50 kobo. I think we saw the impact on the stock of GTCO, also Access Bank, and you saw when UBA was paying 2.30 kobo, we saw a move in the price. But at the end of the day, investors also have to look at what is happening in the fixed income space, and we saw, despite the impressive result and a huge dividend payout, we still saw investors exiting the equities market for the fixed income market.
Before I take you on that, I remember before now, I'm almost tempted to even talk about the analysts that actually talked about this, saying that, the banking recapitalization news would support positive sentiment for the banking stocks. But the opposite seems to be the case. Is there something we're missing? I mean, are they getting something wrong by their projection?
Yes, I think it's definitely going to impact the banking stock and also the market generally. But like I mentioned, is the timing, because when you talk about the recapitalization, it's a good thing. It's going to impact the market. But coming at this time when we have the high rate environment, people will be looking at the return on investment that will be expected of the equities market will definitely be higher than what we have in the fixed income market. And when you look at the current prices and current yield, I don't think dividend yield, I don't think the current dividend yield is comparable to what you have in the fixed income market. So people are looking at this information and they are making that decision based on that. But I think it depends on how the banks are able to roll out the timing of their recapitalization program. I think that will also help investors in analyzing the market and making decisions.
All right, you talked about dividend yield, but I know that's not the only thing to consider. What happens to capital gains? But that's also going down, if you ask me. So now, are we seeing a respite anytime soon? I mean, what policies or company news can change the tide in the market? You talked about, some of the things that might, spoil that sort of sentiment that we want to see. But how soon will this happen?
I think we are expecting the Q1 results of most companies by the end of this month. But beyond the performance that will be expected from those Q1, I think the people will continue to look at what is happening in the fixed income market. That is expected. We have seen the CBN talked about increasing rates to attract foreign investors and also to stabilize the FX market, which we have seen relative stability in the FX market rates, the Naira gaining value. And we expect that to start affecting the inflation, because for March inflation, you saw that inflation went up even beyond expectation to 33.20%. So as we continue to see inflation figures, maybe at the end of this month, the inflation for April, and also what CBN does with rates, I think those are the factors that will affect the market. But if you look at what happened in the auction, the bond auction, and also the last Treasury bill, it shows you that rate seems to have peaked, and they tend to start rolling down, because the last NTB auction, if 1 year TB was at 20.70% from 21%. So that tells you that rates kind of peaked. And also, so the bond rate on Monday showed that for the 10-year bond, it was at 20%. Previously, it was at 21%. So that tells you that they will start seeing rates tinkling down. And definitely, that is what the market we can affect investors in the capital market, coupled with the results that we expect from the bank. But with what has happened so far, because you know that full year 2020 result was actually spurred by what happened with terms of devaluation of the currency. So a lot of the banks made a lot of money from FX gains. We don't expect to see that in Q1 results. So I don't think we'll see a lot of surprises in their result for Q1 provide that catalyst to push the market upward.
So what's the way out really for people who are probably vested in that stock? I mean, we cannot overemphasize the importance of a diversified portfolio at this point. I can imagine what this probably means for investors who have banking and telco stocks. What are your thoughts for them? I mean, what should they be doing at this point?
For investors in that space, what I would say is that, like I'm trying to advise some investors, is that for those, because what we have seen is that those that we invested at lower levels are exiting the market and trying to move in. But for those, I don't think it's a time to panic, because when you look at these companies, there's still a lot of value in those coins, right, for the banking stock. And if you look at the only thing why we are seeing expecting a dilution in the equity holdings is because they are going to be raising more money. But in terms of their shareholders, you can see their balance sheet is quite huge. Most of them have balance sheet of over 2 trillion. Some of them have over 1.something trillion, which if the CBN allows them to use their complete shareholder fund, they should be able to meet the capitalization easily. But it's just because CBN is paying attention to paid up capital share premium. So I think they are still in a good position. And also when you look at their EPS, they're talking about 20 Naira EPS, and some of them at almost 20 Naira. We expect to see lower EPS, but it's still going to be good. So I think they still have a lot of value that people can look at. But just because of what is happening in the fixed income space, that's why people are exiting. And also with the increase in rates, people are also looking at the foreign investors that we expect to start coming to the equities market. They'll also be looking at that. And finally, the last figures from America that talks about inflation, with surprise increase in inflation in America. And so the expected rollback in rates in America is not going to come very soon. I think those are also factors that people are looking at, and it's affecting the equities market.
Okay, so in closing, we always talk about savvy investors who know what to do at every point, in time, when to buy, hold, or sell. I would like you to talk to us about these dynamics. So, some of us who are not as savvy will know not to sit and watch our investments go up and down, right before our noses.
Yes, I think for those that are looking at the market, there are still opportunities in the market. Looking at the bank, like for now, this morning we saw some of the banking stock trying to pull back because of what they suffered yesterday. So we expect to see some pullback, but it will not be it will be trading relatively flat, because investors, profit takers, will be looking at what happens in the market. So I think it's a market for short term, for especially those that are going to be looking at trends in the market, for short term to trade, short term for those that want to trade. For those that are looking at long term, they can still look at the market for long term. There's still, like I said, still opportunities in the market for long term. But for short term, they have to just look at the market and exit whenever there is some relative gains in terms of their portfolio. Then for outside the banking stocks, I believe that as we start seeing more interest in the market with the capitalization, a lot of other companies, and also when we start seeing improvement in the economy once for inflation and also for the FX market, we definitely start seeing improvement in other banking stocks. Also, some stocks like the telcos and some of the that are trying to resolve their negative shareholders fund. I think their meeting that we'll be holding at the end of the month will also have an impact in what investors will be doing with respect to their stocks.
You know, I'm just imagining what will happen if the CBN prefers another rate hike. That means the stock market will take another hit. Isn't that what it will be?
Yes, looking at current scenarios, current events, would I expect to see the CBN increase the hike rate shortly? Because when you look at the inflation figures, there was an increase in inflation, but when you look at the month-to-month inflation, it started slowing down. And also, you know that a lot of the inflation is pushed by what is happening in the forex market, devaluation. And we have seen the Naira reverse from 1,500, 1,600 levels to just above 1,000 levels. I think that's a good thing for the economy. So once these things start trickling into the economy in terms of prices, we expect to see inflation coming down. And with inflation coming down and relative stability in the forex market, we don't expect the CBN to hike rates, because hiking rates definitely will affect the economy. So you cannot continue to hike rates and light affecting, because businesses will not be able to borrow. The manufacturers are already complaining about that. So I don't expect to see them hike rates once we start seeing inflation coming down and also stability in the FX market.
All right, just before you go, I mean, finally right now, what is that thing that we should be expecting, to cause that particular change? I mean, when should we expect some positivity in the stock market?
Yes, like I said, the rate is impacting. The another thing that I think will affect is once the banks, because some of them are started rolling out plans in terms of their proposal for recapitalization. I think after more information comes out in terms of the timing, there are meetings that are being proposed shortly to approve it with respect to the timing and respect to the price that they are going to raise for those that want to do right issue, and also the price. I think it will definitely have an impact on the market, because in the absence of those information, I think a lot of investors are looking at the future and with some level of uncertainty. I think that's what is affecting the market, and also what is happening in the fixed income space. While there's a lot of clarity, better clarity with capitalization, I think it will have an impact on the market. And also the meetings that have been expected at the end of the month, like MTNN holding the shareholders meeting to discuss its negative shareholders. So I think that will affect their stock that we saw for Capri and the others.
All right, thank you so much, Vincent Oshoma, head of capital market at Interstate Securities. Thanks for your time and your thoughts.